Oh, what is up, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another show this week of the Bearded Browns podcast. Like usual, we have lots to talk about. We got Chad, we got Angel. We're gonna bust it all out today.
We do.
How are you doing, Angel?
I'm good. Good. A little tired, but here I am on the show, but on the show. Dedicated as ever. Sharing the stream. Share the stream.
Yes, do all that.
Yeah. Some Browns could take a page out of Angel's book here on
No days off, no matter how
how to
tired
get
you
out
are.
there and get to work.
So, as usual, we have a lot to talk about today. We're going to start up some quarterback talk, get into practices, some contract things, and preseason, the game.
This is another one of these weeks where it seemed like, will we have anything to talk about after that game? And then Browns
fine.
happened.
Yeah. Browns beat the Browns.
This is Browns, and we're like, oh yeah, I guess we have plenty that we need to get into.
There is plenty. Real quick, how was your guys' weekend?
You go first, Chad. I did it last week first.
Ooh.
I mean, it was okay. It was nothing crazy. Met up with some friends on Friday and had a nice social day, and then
Quarterback
Saturday
train. I'm sorry.
Saturday running about town, and then Sunday was a nice lazy Sunday catching up on Brown stuff. I did not catch much of that game. I watched the game replay instead of watching it live, which was way better. Sorry to everyone out there that did use a huge chunk of their Sunday to watch that game. Woof.
Bad. I had a baby shower for my sister-in-law on Saturday, so most of my Saturday was caught up on that. And Sunday, I just recovered from helping with the baby shower. Other than that, just living life.
That's good. It's my wife's birthday weekend, so we did the Lady Caroline cruise down in the flats. Had a couple drinks on there, met up with some friends. It was a good time. Then I went to the preseason game, and I left before the half. One, because I was starving.
And you didn't want to pay $80 for food?
I did. We bought a Philly cheesesteak and some fries, and then I bought a lot of beers before the half. So it was time to leave. That's what we did. We left, got home, got some chicken wings, and Sunday I did nothing. I did absolutely nothing from partying all day Saturday.
Sometimes that's so nice, though.
It is. It was worth it. But we have Browns football to talk about. This is a thing now because, again, there is football now. It's Chad's favorite part of the year, preseason.
Make-believe football time.
Yes.
Make-believe.
There's a lot going on right now. A lot. The biggest thing right now is the DTR trade talk. Obviously, that's an option. There's plenty that could happen with the situation. You can get a draft pick out of them. You can get more offensive linemen. What is your guys' take on this?
It's kind of funny. This kind of just came out of nowhere just today, right? Like we had on the podcast, we had a set topic to talk about, whether we like Huntley, whether we're liking DTR, how they did in the last two games, are either of them worth trading? And then like this morning, that just got blown up with like that story that allegedly the Browns are getting approached by multiple teams about DTR and like what the price would be. So I did think that was kind of like, oh, what a thing to wake up to today.
I wonder if one of those teams would be Minnesota since they saw him actually play. That would be an interesting.
I saw a confirmed report that one of them is Minnesota.
Okay.
I said
interesting.
It was a lot of speculative. There's a lot of like Twitter stuff back and forth, but I tried to kind of weed it out, and I saw one that was from like NFL notifications that was like confirmed, sources confirmed, multiple teams have reached out about DTR, including the preseason matchup Vikings. And so that would make sense. They watched him at practice all week and in the game. And it was kind of funny because I didn't hear anything about Huntley, who previously I thought had been a lot of speculation. He might be a trade target for a lot of the teams because he's got a lot of experience. He's won games in the league, but apparently right now it's all DTR. Do you guys think, I saw some stuff online anywhere from like give me anything from him. I don't care. I hate him now, which is
Yeah.
funny given last
Yeah.
year that like he was the absolute preseason darling and people
Yep.
were like, love him. To I saw a couple of people post like he's not on the market. Like I would never give him up for anything. And I'm like, wow, okay. I like him. I would give him up for something, right?
Something. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I was curious, where are you guys
I
on that too?
I do like him. I like him better than Huntley. Obviously he's younger, so I could see why a team would want to roll the dice on him. But I mean anything would be great. 5th, 6th, 7th, an offensive lineman. I mean
So you're on the
something.
anything train. So you're on the
Yeah,
anything train.
because
I
I
guess if
mean,
you like Huntley better, then like that's an automatic, right? Like he's my cut
yeah,
candidate. So I'd rather
but
give him away for something than waiver him to somebody else.
yeah, I like DTR. So I mean, I would hope they would get maybe a 4th, but I think that's too high. So realistically, a 5th or a 6th for me would be realistically. I could see them getting that unless Andrew busts out some magic and gets some more.
I'm going to look at it realistically. Obviously, last year we were all in open arms because he was the preseason MVP, and everybody's like, "Yeah, it's our guy. Get rid of Deshaun Watson. Let's bring this dude in." And
That
we've
was
seen that.
my
Obviously.
least favorite story.
Right,
Yeah.
but we watched that happen, and everybody fell in love with the kid. He's still a kid. It's his second year, so he's got a lot to learn. I think he has potential in the upcoming years. Yes, as of right now, I'd say keep Huntley. That's my opinion. And I did put
Huntley also. We got 2 Huntleys. Okay.
I did put a poll on our X today, and it said who should be QB number 3, and 58% of you said DTR. The other 42% said Tyler Huntley. And
pretty even.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, overall,
I do. Yeah, I do like Huntley. I mean, DTR a little more, but for me, it's like, thank God we're talking about a 3rd string quarterback and not our 1st string quarterback right now. So at the end of the day, it's like you can't. I would like to see him go out and maybe get some more playing time somewhere else.
I went back and forth with Pete Smith today on a couple, just on a back and forth conversation about, because he really likes DTR, and I agree with him on a lot of stuff. But I was curious his thought on it. He's in the camp of like, well, we have control of DTR for the next 3 years because of this contract. I'd subtract one of those because we have Huntley for 1 year also. So it's more like you have 2 more years of control of DTR. But I guess I just don't put a lot of stock in that, because if our backup quarterback is Jameis Winston and he remains our backup quarterback, like is having control of a 3rd quarterback that important? Or can you just kind of always get your hands on some usable 3rd quarterback? So I kind of was looking at it differently, where I think DTR's got some promise. You know, he was very good last season in the preseason. It did not pan out in the regular season. He was awful in the regular season. And then he's been not as flashy this year as last year, but probably outplaying Huntley a little bit. But it's hard for me to weigh that because I know they're playing with guys that like will unlikely be on this roster, if at all. They won't be guys who you expect to play. And we've seen Huntley in it live game action. So I guess looking at this team, it's almost like, do you want a developmental guy, or are you more worried about having a protection in case Deshaun goes out with an ankle sprain and in the next play, Jameis gets a concussion and you need someone in there to win you the game? Huntley seems like the guy that could do that. So I'm sort of on the spot now where I'm like, I guess I'm just going to leave it up to the Browns. I could take either. But I'm also in the realm of like, if you're going to get rid of DTR, if teams are calling for him and he actually appears to have value, for everybody that was posting like, I'll just take like a 6th or 7th for him. Like, you gave up a 5th for him last year. So I'm not ready to take a loss on him. Like, I'd want a 5th and something else. If anything, I'd like to at least replace that asset in the draft and maybe a little more. A lot of people are like, what about a tackle? And it's like, yeah, that would be ideal, right? But how many teams have a tackle? They're not going to give up their backup because they know how important that position is. How many teams have
We'll find out.
How many teams have a third? How many teams have a 3rd left tackle who's good enough to play for the Browns, who needs a backup quarterback also? It seems like, you're getting yourself in the weeds of like, is this trade possible, or are we just in like kind of a make-believe world here? So I don't know. We're going to find out in a week because waivers are the 29th. So in
Right.
9 days, you have to cut your roster from 93 to 53. And the guy's either going on waivers, he's staying on the active 53, or we've traded him. So we'll know real soon.
So last year, there's a new rule that the NFL applied, and you could have 3 dress quarterbacks. Correct? 3 dress quarterbacks, yes. Only 12 teams used it last year. That's another roster spot.
Yeah.
Do you think
I
we'll
think
use it
only
this
12
year?
teams used it because most teams didn't keep
Needed
a
it.
quarterback at all. I think the majority of the NFL only keeps 2 quarterbacks, a starter, a backup, and then they maybe have a call-up guy or a practice squad guy. The Browns were one of the few teams that even kept a third quarterback, and they didn't plan to. They had DTR and Watson, and when Watson went down and DTR got obliterated his first game, they kind of panicked because they're like, we don't want to cut DTR, but he can't play right now. So they had to bring in PJ Walker, who eventually got replaced by Flacco. But it was like, yeah, I guess I'd say it's almost been a given because the injuries last year and Deshaun coming off the injury. It's almost been a given. Obviously, the Browns will keep 3. I mean, it wouldn't blow me away if they didn't. If Deshaun's healthy and Jameis looks good and has a pretty good history with injuries, it wouldn't be the craziest thought that they're like, do we need to use a 53-man spot for him? I still think they would probably will, but I wouldn't be like completely blown away if they just thought, well, we can get through the season with these 2 and whichever guy falls through waivers on the practice squad.
Yeah, I
Angel?
think they're gonna need that third quarterback, considering what they went through last year. I think keeping Huntley would be smart for them, for that fact that you don't want to let him go and then lose him. He's already in your system. If I mean, team might roll the dice on him or even feel like there's value there.
Yeah,
And
they're
you
going to
wanna
lose
keep
one
him.
of them, though, right? We're
Yeah,
not keeping 4.
no, you're definitely
Yeah.
not keeping forward. That's why if you trade DTR, you keep Huntley and just pray that you don't use him, but always have him just in case.
Yeah.
Because here at anything can happen, man. It's Cleveland.
Yeah.
I mean, we went
And
through
I would say,
50,000 injuries last year.
Right.
yeah, but it's so crazy to think like, well, because you had him last year, like, will that happen again? I don't know. Like, we didn't even, a lot of the problem we had last year too wasn't even injuries. DTR didn't get benched because he was injured. He got benched because he threw like 3 picks against the Ravens. And then PJ Walker also didn't get injured and lose his spot. He just stunk,
Stunk.
so
Yeah.
it was like, and then DTR came back in for PJ Walker because he stunk, and that's where he got injured. And then Flacco came in, but like, I don't know. It's a
So,
tough call.
The reason I like
I mean,
Huntley
there's
the
going to be
most-
guys. There's going to be guys on this 53 that somebody's going to get cut to keep a third quarterback. That
Yeah.
will be a bummer. But I get the thinking.
The reason I really like Huntley the most is because he knows the AFC North the best. He's a little bit older, so
Yeah.
you got to take that into consideration.
So, by the way, for the record, he's not that much older.
2 years.
No, in like the second month of the season, DTR is turning 25 and Huntley is 26.
Oh, I thought.
So
Yeah, I thought it was.
I
a
know
2-year
it
difference.
seems like he's so much older because he came out.
He
as
looks
like
a lot older too.
Yeah,
He looks
people
older.
forget. People forget that like Huntley came out of college as a 22-year-old or 21 or 22-year-old, and DTR came out of college as a 23-year-old because he played 5 full years of college.
Yeah.
So like he's an older young quarterback. He's only in his second year of his contract, but he's only a year and change younger than Huntley. Like it's one of those guys like we talked about in camp where it's like, oh, this guy is like a really young guy. And like Brady Breeze, like we talked about, there's these camp guys. You're like, oh, this guy's a rookie, right? And it's like he's not.
No.
Brady Breeze is like 27. So you're like, you're thinking of these guys because you don't know them as like these young camp guys, but then you realize like, oh, they're much older than I thought. So DTR is not old by any means, but he's about to turn 25 in like October maybe.
Could be.
fun.
I'll double check.
Excuse me. The other big talk of today, after losing more linemen, left tackles in particular, is Deshaun Watson really going to play Saturday? Multiple people via X, Twitter, have said that they're most likely not going to play him because there's no left tackle that they could put in besides Fetty. And I disagree. I think he should play. Deshaun Watson should play this Saturday, no matter the circumstances. You're ready. You've been cleared. Get out there and play ball, dude. That's what you're supposed to do. He is supposed to play this game in Seattle, but as of right now, it's a toss-up. What is your guys' opinion on that?
I don't think he's gonna play. And 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 I felt like I've been like that for the last couple, like last week. I've been telling you guys, I just
You're
don't
like,
think
maybe this is the 27-hour
Yeah.
workday that I just worked, but
Yeah.
no.
No, yeah, I don't think he's gonna play because I don't. There is a dialogue between the reporters and him that a lot of people missed this week, and it was brought up that he would play against Seattle, and he said, "I am." Like he said it as if like, wait a second, I'm playing. So, and a lot of people missed that dialogue between him and reporters. Like he was thrown off by a reporter asking him, "Hey, are you ready to play against Seattle?" And that was before the reporters asked Kevin, "Hey, is he playing?" He said, "Yes." They asked Watson, "Are you playing?" He says, "I don't think I am." And then now Kevin's coming back around.
I heard one debunk on that, and it was well, it's two. It was Mary Kay Cabot and Daryl Ryder, and they said, at least this is not like a fact, but they said they dug into that a little bit because they were surprised he didn't know the plan would be for him to play, and they both came back separately and said, we think he didn't know after we like approached it after the press conference. What it seemed like his answer was he didn't know that Kevin had already told us, and he thought they were trying to bait him, and so he's
Okay.
like, "Oh, I don't know,
Okay.
like whatever the coach says."
That sounds like a lie to me.
Yeah,
I know. I don't know if it's true or not. But
I'm not falling for
we
that.
got the impression like
Yeah.
he was like, "Oh, you're not going to get me. I'm not
No,
telling you." And then
no.
they said like, "Oh, we already know," and he's like, "Oh,
You
well then,
you
okay, sure. I don't know."
that's good. Thank you, Watson, for giving your mouthpiece, Mary Kay, that to kind of back you up. But we know you didn't know, and you're like, and they got in the meeting. There's like, crap, you said that, I said this. We got to clean this up. Let's tell Mary Kay this,
Could be.
and Mary Kay
Yeah, that could be
reported it.
too.
Thank you. So I'm telling you right now, Watson was not going to play. He didn't want to play. He probably didn't want to play. Understandably, I wouldn't. I don't think he should play considering the line situation. So I'm on his side. I don't want to risk it.
Remember, he got asked this before 3 linemen got
Yeah.
knocked out of the preseason game too. So like,
So now I'm more like I don't.
Yeah.
One play, man, he could hurt, and then you have the fans again. See, he's not. It's like, dude, he had like your fifth playing guy that just got off of Giant Eagle bagging groceries on the offensive line, and he's hurt, and you're complaining about it. Come on, but
they're in bad shape on the line.
We really can't have that though, honestly, because you're playing against second and third stringers.
They might not be though. I was told that Seattle, or I mean, I'd read that Seattle is planning on playing their starters for like a couple series.
Yeah, and that's what I read as well. That Stefanski's going to put all the starters out there for 10+ series.
He did see in the press conference they should all be ready and expect to play. Some of them will sit out for precaution, but anybody should be ready.
Watson.
So yeah,
he's backpedaling a little bit on that, and I don't blame him, because if you can't figure out who to put at left tackle and you just decide like I'm not doing it, at least you can say like, oh well, we pivoted, like we're really good at pivoting.
They did pivot. They moved Zach Zinter from right guard in the preseason game last week that I was at to left guard. Did you guys know that?
Yeah, and that's something I had brought up, because I said one of the big things I said, and it's posted. I think right now it's pinned on our X if anybody wants to go look at it. But I had mentioned that during COVID, when Wills got COVID and had to be isolated last minute, like just a couple days before the game, and couldn't play, and they didn't have a backup left tackle at that time, they swung Batonio out to left tackle for one game, and they put, I think, Dunn in as the backup left guard to play left guard. And so I said that, like, what, down the line, if we can't get these tackles back and they can't just come up with one out of, thin air, they might have to slide Batonio out one more time. And then you want somebody with some power like Zach Zinter or Dunn, if he's playing well on that side, to be able to step in at guard and take Batonio's spot. It's not ideal, but at least like there is some other option out there with guys on this roster that they've made work. And I would urge you guys to go look at that article that was written about the Batonio game, and it tells like how many rushes he allowed, how many pressures, it tells his PFF score, for that game and all that stuff. So you can really get an idea of like, how did he do on one game? And for anybody that doesn't remember, it was against the Raiders, and they had Max Crosby playing for them. So if you're thinking about somebody to go up against Micah Parsons, those two players could not be more equal as pass rushers. So,
and before we get
give
into
you a realistic idea,
the next up on X, I did post another poll. Should Deshaun Watson play Saturday? 81.1% of people said yes, and 18.9% said no.
And that doesn't surprise me. I'm kind of I'm with the camp of like, I think he should be able to go out and play, but coming off this injury, if they want to like balk and have 2 extra weeks of him not taking hits, then I don't really care that much. I'm not with the fan base that's like, if he doesn't play 2 series in preseason, how will he play in the game? Like, I don't know. He'll be rusty for the first 2 series of the game. And then he'll be right where he would have been anyway. Like, he'll look a lot like he looked in the Bengals game last year, super rusty until like halfway through the game when he started to pick up steam. And that's what most guys look like, because most of the starters play these days a series or 2, and then they're kind of done for almost every team. So like, and I don't really care. I honestly just don't think it's that big of a deal either way. I would like for him to be able to go out and play just for peace of mind, but it's for me more than it is for Deshaun. For anybody else out there who thinks it helps Deshaun a ton, I just don't believe that. I think it helps me see him hopefully make a couple of easy passes and go, whew, he's ready. Good.
We've seen that at camp. We're good.
It's like, it's nice to see in the game. Like, there's no disputing that. I'd love that. But I do not think it does for Deshaun what the general fan base thinks it does to get out there for, 5 to 10 plays. Like, I don't know.
Ohio Sports Talk on X said, how about them dogs? Them guys are awesome. Doug's a huge Browns fan. Jordan, the other guy, is his co-host is a Cincinnati fan, so whatever. But
I know it's kind of interesting to follow them because they do cover both. And then weirdly, are they the ones that cover the Reds all the time, but never the Guardians? I feel like they cover the Bengals, the Browns, and then only the Reds, but not the Guardians.
They're very versatile, because they even do the Olympics. They were talking about the Olympics. I'm like, dude, I don't even know who's.
That's cool. Doug and Jordan, they're cool guys. If you guys want to, go check them out.
It's a cool perspective to have any site that covers both football teams.
Yes, but Doug's the cooler one because he likes the Browns.
Pretty
obvious.
Jordan and I talk crap to each other during their show. It's funny.
That's pretty funny.
Chad, this is all you, buddy. Let's talk about the
injury rundown.
Injuries.
Okay. I'm just going to run through these because so many of them, a bunch of them are going to be non-consequential. A bunch of them are like nothings, and some of them are pretty significant. So at camp, Amari Cooper, a lot of people heard, went down with like a yell of some sort. And the injury was unspecified. He caught a pass, made a cut, and then kind of went down. And then I haven't been able to find, and I dug anywhere that actually says what he hurt. The good news is he came out for a couple more plays and then basically said whatever it is, was too sore. And so he went in with trainers, and then he is now back to practice, but limited. I can't imagine he would have been back to practice at all if he wasn't going to be ready for camp. You can count him out for this weekend. I don't know how you throw him in the game now. The guy's played for 10 years. He doesn't need reps in preseason. He's one of the best route runners in the NFL. He doesn't need to get his timing down. He practiced all last offseason with Deshaun, and all training camp so far. So he's got an unspecified injury. Mo Hurst has that bone bruise, like a bone contusion that we talked about. I imagine he'll be fine. That's just a pain injury, and it could take weeks to heal. But as soon as he can tolerate the motion and get his muscles like working over the pain, he'll be fine. He is on a bubble spot too, so that's really good for him. He's the type of player like David Bell, who is right on that roster bubble where if somebody outperforms them in the next, somebody outperforms him. I'm literally chugging this. If he misses too much time, like somebody could snatch that last spot on the defensive line. But I think he'll be back. I wouldn't be shocked if he could play in this game, but they might hold him off. Ward is in the concussion protocol again. If he actually has a concussion, this will be his 5th. Grossi, who dug into this a little bit, apparently asked if he was diagnosed with a concussion, if they could give him that he was like officially diagnosed, and they said no, they're holding him out for precaution. Like they didn't confirm an actual diagnosis of a concussion. So he had the idea that this may not even be an actual concussion. They might just be using precaution because he's been such a concussion risk since his rookie year. So we won't know for sure, but he should be ready for the regular season no matter what. The tough ones are the in-game ones. All 3 of the guys playing backup tackle for us, which is James Hudson, Hakeem Adeniji, and Jermaine Ifedi, all left the game at some point with an injury. And Adeniji and Hudson, I think we're both playing left tackle. Jermaine Ifedi goes back and forth. He plays both sides, but I think he was playing right. But Hudson had an ankle injury. He's going to miss a week or 2, so he won't be in the next preseason game, but he might be okay for the beginning of the season. If it's just an ankle sprain, they will tape the hell out of that thing. And like, if he's the guy that has to be out there, he will. He's just so bad when he's healthy. I
was gonna say,
would not love him out there with an ankle injury, right?
A bad ankle injury. How bad are you going to be after that? Jeez.
Adeniji had a knee injury, and they actually put him on IR. They waived him with an IR designation, which we talked a little bit about this week. It means they waived him to waivers. If he gets through waivers and nobody picks him up, which I can't imagine anybody will, the Browns can bring him back, but he would have to go on the IR because they waived him with an IR designation. Right. Or they can give him an IR settlement and kind of free him as a free agent again. And then he's just kind of out there. And then Jermaine Ifedi had a hand injury. They brought him out as a precaution. By the end of the game, I was hearing he's actually fine. He could play this week if needed. But they just got him out of there. I mean, if there was any game where you just wanted to be like, timeout, like we forfeit, like this game is over, just deal and bring it to an end. This was that type of game. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about the game at the end of the podcast, but like those injuries are impactful because Adeniji is going to be out for several weeks. Hudson's going to miss with that ankle, I'd imagine, at least 2 weeks before he's ready to go. And we won't know until next week whether Conklin or Wills are ready to be back on the field. So it's a pretty up there thriller for the tackles.
Bib Orr on YouTube just said, Lions are better than the Browns, respectively. And I will give you that.
Just a random comment, by the way. When you've been talking about the Lions.
Right. When your team deals with the not controversy, but the injuries that we had last year, and then could respectively come back the way we did, then I guess we'll talk about that. But the Lions
I would argue
good.
that fully healthy, I would argue that the Browns are better than the Lions. Given even not last year's injuries, given the way the Browns are going into the season without Chubb, without Wills and Conklin right now, with some injuries on the defensive line, with Dalvin Tomlinson out and with Newsome out, with that like collection of injuries, I would say, yeah, the Lions are the better team right now. But fully healthy, that is a pretty, I'd have to go position to position. Those are 2 really good rosters.
Yeah.
I think when you look at that, you're thinking like Goff played really well last year and Watson didn't. So the Lions are great, but Deshaun's ceiling is higher than Goff's.
Let's all clear this right now. Let's clear the air. I don't mind the Detroit Lions, but I hate them Wolverines.
Nope. I know. I think most Clevelanders kind of like watching the Lions. Like they're feels like watching that other team on the lake that just has never been able to really put it together, and now they kind of are, and it's pretty exciting.
But yeah, thank you, Bib, for the comment. We're gonna move along. Joint practices with the Vikings here in Cleveland. Oh
yeah, some stuff coming out of practice.
Yeah, Harden got a lot of reps. So I seen that guy on the field. I seen a bunch of reels on Facebook that I was watching throughout the week, and you did see him out there a lot. There is a Sports Illustrated article called "Earned His Spot." Chad, right?
Yeah, apparently there was an article that came out of it on Sports Illustrated this week, and I was just surprised to see it. It was like late round draft pick for the Browns surprisingly has already earned a spot on the roster. And according to the article, they basically just went into how well he played at joint practice. And, I didn't see that many reps of his at practice. I did hear he was out there a lot and he was lining up kind of as sometimes the number 2 corner. And for a late round pick, like that's a lot to ask the third week of his first training camp. And so, but they said he held his own on more plays than not. And they were basically saying like the kid's a lock for the roster spot. We know they recognize that Newsome and Ward are both out with injury, but they're like, essentially, he showed enough that there's no way you can just move on from this kid's talent. And I just thought that was an interesting guy to have popped out of camp, like as a really late
It's a
round
7th
draft pick.
round, right? 7th round pick.
Yeah, he was one of our 2 7th rounders, I believe.
And I agree.
Andrew.
I mean, those are guys on a stacked roster. Those are guys that you're like, is this the year you cut a draft pick because they picked a defensive lineman and a cornerback in 2 really busy rooms, right?
Yep.
I'm not sure about Briggs right now, but Harden apparently everybody loves. Stefanski had some nice things to say about him in the press conference too after the joint practices were over.
Yeah, I haven't heard much on Briggs. I gotta look.
No, he's been quiet. I really love his story. We talked about him a lot in the preseason. The good thing about Briggs is like he's a defensive lineman. He doesn't have a lot of tape. They really like his story and him as like a developmental prospect. I think he's a lock to make our practice squad. I can't believe they give up on a 7th round guy that they see something in. But like, I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't make the roster. They can only hold so many defensive linemen, and Tomlinson coming back from that injury will make it. And there's just too many good guys in front of him. But I thought both of them were like locked practice squad guys. But if people are thinking Harden can make the active roster, that would be crazy given how many cornerbacks we already have. So, and then the other cornerback, Emerson, are you guys as high on Mike? This was my question. Are you guys as high on
favorite
him
guy.
as Brown's Twitter?
Of course.
Because Brown's Twitter came out this week and we're like, I heard if you were following Vikings Twitter, the story is very different. Yeah. It was more like these 2 guys battled. But Brown's Twitter was like, Emerson owned Jefferson.
Jefferson. Yeah, it was 50-50. I mean, let's call it for what it is. Justin is
I'll just say this. If it was 50-50,
that's good for Emerson.
Yeah, I will take it because Justin Jefferson is probably the best receiver in the league.
Yeah.
And if as a 2nd year, whatever 3rd year guy, you can 2nd year, right? 2nd year guy, you can keep up with that guy. That's big upside,
promising.
Man. That's big upside.
And if go back a little bit, if Harden turns out to be even good, nothing compared. Even depth-wise, Barry has that eye for corners, and we can safely say that.
It seems like it. Yeah, it seems like
but I love Emerson. I love his game. I love his I don't know, everything about him. His hair.
He's a talker.
He's
compared to Ward, who's like kind of quiet, business, like Chubb. Emerson is talking the whole practice.
Yeah. And I'm not a big talker guy, but for some reason Emerson just like,
and it's not even trash talk. He's just like very Jameis Winston, like he's just lively. He's just like, let's go, let's get it.
Yeah, I love Emerson. I can't wait to see
some
what
of that.
Season. Yeah. Balance, right? Because you got Ward.
You got your quiet, intense guys. And like JOK is not shouting around. He's not making a fuss. Neither is like Delpit. But then you got like Emerson barking a lot. You got Miles waving his hands.
That's been Angel's guy since last year. I will not forget that, Angel, ever.
Emerson.
He was a surprise to me. I was not hype on that draft pick because I was like, man, first of all, you gave up a 2nd round pick to trade down, like when we really could use like a lot of positions, especially receiver. And then you end up taking the first pick in the draft. You end up taking a cornerback who's probably going to end up being at best our cornerback 3 or 4 that year. And he flew up the charts. He was by the end of the season.
He was starting.
I think he was 2. Yeah, he was.
2.
He was two on like on 2 cornerback sets. It was Newsome was going in the slot or coming out, and it was Emerson staying in. And I was like, holy cow! Because Newsome underrated. Browns fans hate him.
I agree.
I think he's pretty good. He's a starting cornerback in the NFL and a 1st round pick. And if you come in the league and take that spot, that's huge money.
Huge difference. That is the wrong one.
Mike, you wanted to talk about all the camp and game fights.
Yeah. So Kevin Stefanski has a rule: if you get into a fight at camp or in a game as a starter, if you're at a preseason game, you're going to start that game and you're going to play the whole game. If you get into a fight as a possible part of this team, like a
fringe
second or third stringer that's out there fighting for a job, you were not going to play that game. So you missed your chance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we got into it. I was talking to one of the guys, and we get along. It wasn't like a Twitter fight or anything, but we were going back and forth, and he had mentioned, like, on one play, Huntley just got his bell rung, and he was mad that none of the linemen went over and, like, started something. And I had just mentioned, like, I don't know. Like, I know we all like to see that guys, like, sticking up for each other and stuff like that, but, like, you're going to get called. That's a 15-yard penalty. That the guy that runs up to, like, stand up for his quarterback always gets that flag. And I was like, these guys might just know, like, I want to stay out here, and if I get this flag, I might be coming out of the game.
And I need to make this team.
Yeah, I really need to be here. And, like, I get it, but it's like, that's what we talked about. I'm like, I don't know. Stefanski might have just drilled it in them. Like, we do not take that penalty. We do not fight. Like, it's not.
If it was a regular season game, Joe Batonio, I'm sure Joe would have went over there and said something if his quarterback fell out. It's a preseason game.
I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to be honest. These teams have seen the Browns defense. You want to try to go out there and cheap shot somebody on the Browns offense? Go for it.
See what happens.
I'm going to watch Zadarius Smith and Myles Garrett come in on the next play, and that's going to get paid. That's going to get paid for.
What's that saying? F around and find out.
Yeah, I actually I read an article that to get on Myles Garrett real quick, that they had to tell Myles Garrett during joint practices to calm down a little bit because he was getting in the quarterback too quick and they couldn't run any plays.
Yes, I heard that too.
Myles was like, practice or not, I'm gonna mess everything up.
A good
coach also apparently came out and said something about, like, do we have to have the intensity, like, turned up all the way? Like, can we chill a little bit? And I was like, that's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear.
Yep.
My buddy on Tom said, I'm looking good. He said, not so much for you guys. Thank you, Tom. Love you, buddy.
Hey, that's offensive. That's offensive.
That's probably the ugliest one on the show.
I've always thought
down.
Tom was kind of a jerk.
Yeah. I don't even like Tom.
Man.
Yes, there's so much more. So yeah, no camp fights. You don't fight. Well, as a starter, if you fight, you play. And if you are a guy fighting for a job,
you don't
play.
Ironically, the Dogs by Nature articles that we've been contributing to are called Fight Camp. And I was like, apparently not.
How ironic.
No fights.
So the other thing that people have been asking us about in comments here are the JOK extension, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah.
Yeah.
I think every Browns fan is happy to see that happen. The guy deserves it. Could anybody disagree with that? I don't think so.
No,
so
it happened at the right time. It was supposed to happen for his final year. Like, they got it done early.
And
they got it done before the season.
Yeah.
And they did it as an extension, which means we get an extra year of him. And I mean, not only has he earned it, like, they did the same thing they love to do. Like, they didn't let him show another year like he did this year and, like, blow up the market and become a free agent and have all this competition. But even with that being said, the best part about this contract is not that I love JOK. We've talked about it. I've been high on none linebackers for the Browns or drafting high linebackers forever. JOK felt like a big exception to me. But even knowing, like, we got him at a pretty fair, but also, like, a not crazy price.
Yeah.
All he came out and had to say about it was, I want to play for this team. I want to stay on this team. I want to have a legacy with the Browns. And I'm happy that they were able to offer me something to keep me here. You know, in a world where we have all these guys sitting out or asking for trades because if they're not the highest paid guy at their position, they don't want anything to do with that team. We actually have a guy on this roster who's, like, fully committed to continuing his career as a Brown as long as they can just give him a reasonable deal. And he's like, I don't even understand why so many people are looking to be the highest paid. Like, this deal gives me security. It gives me money for my life. It's it's a perfectly good contract, but it's just he just took a totally different line of thinking than I feel like what is out there with CD Lamb and T Higgins and Jamar Chase, and now there's guys asking there's defensive lineman for the dude from the Jets wants to be traded now, and
Yeah.
like this whole camp has been Brandon Ayuk. The whole camp has been guys wanting to be traded unless they get a giant contract. And not only did he not ask to be traded or say like you guys will handle it, we got him at more than a fair price, and he was all about it.
I'm going to bring up some more about that next week. We're going to obviously have the preseason game to talk about, but there's something that Chad just kind of brought up with people asking for raises. And that's something I do definitely want to touch base with next week. So both you guys know.
Stay tuned.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do not miss next week's show.
Got it.
We're not going to be the happy-go-lucky guys we always are, because I'm sure the Browns are going to lose again, and then we're going to be gritty. Sorry, I did actually skip over your thing, Chad, here on the MKC's tweet. I'm sorry.
When somebody asks, it's perfect. This was our next topic anyway. The only other thing I wanted to mention on it was like I said they got a pretty good deal on him. It was a 3-year, $29 million deal with $25 million guarantee. First of all, the Browns are not shy about giving guarantees. We know that. They just gave it to Murray. They've given it to Deshaun.
Their quarterback.
They just gave a bunch of guarantees to JOK. But somebody had brought up on the radio, and it wasn't just something I'd thought of, but they're like, we put this guy in a category with somebody like Patrick Queen, who everybody like has ranked as a top cornerback in the game. I mean, top linebacker in the game. He signed a 3-year, $41 million deal. So again, when I say not top of the market, it only had 11 mil guaranteed, but I expect he's going to play through it and earn that 41 mil. And it's just like, yeah, that's a pretty close contract. But Queen signed his last year, I believe, for 41 mil. A year later, if a lot of guys who are not JOK would have said, well, Queen got 41 mil last year. I want 43 mil this year, or I'm not signing. And like, I know that's a $4 million difference, but that sometimes is a whole player. So getting guys on your team who are willing to take like that $4 million is huge. And then they also said Roquan Smith. This example is more of like Roquan Smith made his deal after he had absolutely like hit his peak. And it's kind of the idea that like signing somebody once they become a full-fledged free agent and have like hit the maximum market, they signed him for a 5-year, $100 million.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was that much.
That's crazy. So now you're looking at like a guy that's making 20 mil a year at the linebacker position.
At that position too.
And these are guys that are playing in our division and who are, I mean, and you could make the arguments who's the best one of them. Roquan's awesome. But the idea is like when you sign somebody after he's a free agent, you're going to end up paying a price because now you're fighting anyone else in the league that's willing to pay him. And so, it's just another sign that even though he has his problems, Andrew Berry can definitely build a team.
Smart.
The only thing I wanted to bring up about that collective bargaining agreement thing that Mary Kay Cabot had tweeted, like saying like they should have had to collective bargain the practices. I don't necessarily agree with that. What I thought it highlighted was her point was they go through so many reps and it's so high intensity. And she's like, I would venture to guess after watching every play of the Browns joint practice that these guys are playing like 4 or 5 times as many reps against other ones than they do in a preseason game. And so it kind of went along with that idea of like everybody who's like, these guys need to play in this preseason game. These guys just did dozens and dozens and dozens of reps against the number one defense / the number one offense of the other team. And in a preseason game, you play 2 or 3 series, you get 10, 15, 20 total reps. And she's like, they did that every single day or more. And so I just thought it was an interesting take for anybody who doesn't think joint practices are that important, or they think that preseason is so important.
That means a lot coming from the guy that doesn't believe in preseason. No, I'm kidding.
I just think if it were up to me and you were like, there's going to be a preseason game, 3 preseason games, or like 1 preseason game and 2 joint practices, give me the joint practices. I want to see my ones on another team's ones in like setup situations more than I want to see our ones go up against who knows who on the other side. You know,
But that can go back to our comment from last week, taking a bigger load than expected. So
Mary Kay tweeted it, huh? Wonder if she was saying that defending her.
She was just surprised that they didn't have to, because they have to collective bargain like a preseason game, but not these joint practices, and they have to participate. But she's like, they're just hard. They seem so much harder than a game because
I feel
playing the whole game.
I feel what she was really saying is, guys, Deshaun Watson did the joint practices. He doesn't need to play in the preseason. Yeah, leave him alone. Yeah, that's what I'm just interpreting that.
But I don't care if he plays in the preseason game, but I'm with, like, he probably got better work against the Vikings.
I agree with that, though, in general. I think
he probably got better work against the Vikings guys than he's going to get in this game. But
for sure, like do another joint practice with another team as opposed to putting another preseason game in, for sure.
All right, we're going on this preseason game.
You crossed it off already. Camp is
Mike's starting crap on the show document already.
Yeah.
It's deleted. I see nothing.
That's behind the shows. Behind the shows.
You guys don't want behind the curtains.
Yeah, definitely not.
You don't want anything to do with behind the curtains out here.
If we ever do a Patreon, that we'll show you that.
Yeah, you got to pay for that. Yeah, that's a good idea, Angel.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Camp's about 2/3 of the way through. How confident are you guys feeling about the camp and how the Browns are going to start the season? That's a question for all of you, and I want you guys to comment. How do you think camp has gone, and how do you think we are going to start the season off as the Cleveland Browns? We watched us win 4 preseason games in 2016 and then lose 0-16. So, I mean, preseason obviously means nothing, especially to Chad.
Yeah, the games don't bother me. What bothers me right now is the injuries. I'm still concerned that these guys can't get back. It's getting close to me thinking about changing my season prediction if next week sometime I don't see a couple of these guys to get back on the field, because it was based on everybody being out there and they're just not.
I thought the same thing earlier.
Yeah, and the thing is, they have Dallas, of course. That's a winnable game because they're playing them first. Anybody can win that game, and you do kind of have a favorable next couple of games. Jacksonville, I believe, and you can win 3 games there, 3-4 games. But if you're hurt, man, you lose a couple of those. That 11-win season people were saying it could happen can turn to 8-9 real quick.
Yeah, their range based on the health is all over the map. So, and for everybody last year, it's like, well, we had all those injuries last year and we still won 11. I wish we were playing last year's schedule.
Yeah,
every team in our division got better. Every team well, that's not true. They didn't necessarily get better, but every team in our division is still back and ready to go, and our schedule is jam
brutal.
You know what I wish we were playing right now is the Lions. Just to just to
those suckers
stir that one up there a little bit. So I went to the game Saturday. Our second preseason game. I'm not doing that. No, that was fake. That was really fake. I'm not going to talk about that.
Oh, here we go.
I did go to the game with my wife and I. It was. I sent you guys a picture.
Empty.
And the stadium is just. It's not what it should be. It could be so much more. I knew we were going to
stadium talk into this.
Really quick. I was walking around.
That's why you need to build a new stadium.
Yes, thank you. Anyways, yes, there you go. Quickly. It wasn't because I was up in a higher level this time, and you got to walk all the way up. There's elevators, and no, just no. Simple. Stadium sucks. The stadium really does suck. I'm not impressed at all. I do like the soundboard, the visual, and the boards, and all that's cool when you're sitting in your seat. But when you go out to do anything else, dude, it is horrible.
Yeah,
it's a preseason game too, so it's not as packed as it would be normally for a regular season game. Just build a damn dome already. Come on. All right. Anyways, preseason game 2.
It's coming, y'all. It's coming.
I left at the half. I wasn't impressed by anything I seen at all.
There's not much to see. Well, I mean, there's a couple decent things that happen. There's more bad than good, which is why another reason I hate preseason. Like you come through and you're like, oh, 2 or 3 of these players looked okay, and then 4 left with injury, and you're like,
Yeah, dang it.
But we can go through it. I don't think it'll take very long. It's not that crazy of information, but just a couple quick shots. Number one, they basically sat 40 players
Wow.
for this game before they started. And it was pre-announced, like these 40 guys aren't going to play. I think they said 39, and then of course they didn't play their kicker, and I don't think they end up playing our long snapper again.
Yeah, we brought him back.
Which means he's probably still milking that injury a little bit until he's ready to really go.
Do you guys know he's a Bay Village
Charlie
kid?
Hewlett, friend of the show.
Bay
Yes,
Village.
absolutely, friend of the show.
I wonder if he lives by my brother lives in Bay Village. Okay.
But I basically, the reason I basically wrote that down, like there's basically 40 guys sat, is you have a 53-man roster. It's safe to assume that those 40 people that sat because you need them ready for the regular season, which means it's a pretty good betting odds that those 40 players are probably, about all of them are probably going to make the roster, which means out of everybody that played in preseason, only 13 guys that even dressed will probably even be on this team. So when people were like, oh, they didn't run well or the passing game didn't look great, like you're using 2 of your backup quarterbacks. Probably one of them will be on the roster, which means besides the quarterback, 12 guys on the field will probably make that team. And they were guys like Jordan Akins is going to be one of them. Like you can almost name them. A couple of the backup linemen, like Zinter, will make the team. So when you get through it, Deontay Foreman had a decent game. He'll make the team. Jamari Thrash will make the team. One of those tight ends might make the team. So you're looking at like 6 other guys on that whole field for us are probably part of the 53-man roster. No shocker that they didn't look very good playing an entire game like that. So everybody that's panicking like that they look so bad, it's like Mike said earlier, like they've won 4 preseason games in a year where they lost every game because they had to play good players in preseason. This year, Stefanski's happy saying, we've got injury issues. We'll sit 40. And the rest of you are kind of guys that either like, we need to dress somebody. Like you're
going to get hurt out there. And you're going to get hurt. So enjoy it.
Yep.
So my guy, Jamari Thrash, my guy, I'll say it. My guy, he had a decent showing week 1 and 2. He did have a big catch where he got smacked by 2 guys. And I don't even think he realized he wasn't down because you see him stand there for a sec. He was like pancaked, and he was like, oh, I'm still on my feet. Then he took off. I'm like, all right, cool. I respect that. You're good. You got it. You're on your feet. Run. He did have that other catch, and that is
the INT.
Yeah, the INT that was pretty well contested. It was there, but it was contested pretty well. The guy, that DB was on him. And it got tipped up.
Not the best ball, not a perfect ball because it kind of put it at a place on his body where the DB can get a hand in there. But it did highlight my thing of like a guy who's got just incredible hands might come down with that, and that might not be Thrash. And it popped up and it got intercepted for one of the 3 interceptions of the game. So not a huge deal. I would never be like, oh my God, that stinks. But it was a thought to make you think that is one of his weaker points. He doesn't have the strongest grab in the game. So he's going to have to be a guy that's going to have to be what he works on, but the quarterbacks have to be aware of that. And like, if Cooper's out there, you could probably put it wherever you want, and he's going to make sure he gets it or no one does. You can't do that with every player. You have to know that even this far into camp, like you got to know, like, if I'm getting this to Thrash, it's got to go in front of him because if it gets knocked up, I'm in trouble.
And that's why you
but again, a decent showing for a 5th round guy.
Yeah,
that's 2 games for Thrash where he looks like he belongs on an NFL team.
I have a good feeling about this kid. That's all. Peyton,
do you think Thrash looks better than what
David Bell?
Not David Bell. Donovan Peoples-Jones did.
I'd say they're about equal.
Yeah, DPJ like didn't blow the world up his rookie season. But man, did he come around? He was a more imposing player.
He's taller.
But like Thrash is kind of a speed guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I likened it more to like in DPJ, like Thrash was a 5th rounder, DPJ was a 6th rounder. it wouldn't be shocking to get something out of Thrash like they got out of DPJ. I think the most impressive thing for me about him is he looks better so far between like camp and some preseason than like Tillman or Bell did, or I mean, I would say Schwartz, but everybody looks better than he looked. But in camp he looked terrible. But Tillman and Thrash were 3rd round picks. I mean, Tillman and Bell were 3rd round picks, and their rookie seasons, I didn't see anything crazy out of either of them in preseason that made me go like, wow, amazing. And Thrash has already made like 1 or 2 plays where you're like, okay, he's got something. So
I see it.
So
I
he's
do
on
see
pace.
it.
He doesn't have the upside of like a Tillman, obviously, but he's got some athletic traits maybe better than Bell's. So like maybe they really can turn this kid into a player in the next year or 2.
Yeah.
So the tight ends, Payton showed up. Obviously, that guy had a hell of a game. He had the most receiving yards
He looks like a pass catcher
out of everybody. Yeah, he can definitely catch the ball. He can run. I like his athleticism. He's like, I wonder if he's working with Njoku because he was drilling people. I mean,
he's kind of what I'm hoping Trayden Welch could turn into, to be honest. Like that's kind of what I'm hoping as a fast pass catching guy. That's kind of what I'm hoping the Browns could turn somebody like Welch into. And Payton's been on the practice squad for a year or 2 and has like built in the system, and now he's kind of showing a little something. So we had kind of counted him out early this season because he's just one of those guys where you're like, well, practice squad, then you kind of move on. But he might be able to get himself a role in that TE3 spot if Richie ends up out with that injury and if Welch isn't ready.
Which would make our story that we
I know, a bummer. Irrelevant. Yeah.
Kind of, yes.
But again, I don't think it's totally irrelevant because we really saw some upside in the future of Welch as a developmental prospect. And you can do that off the practice squad. And in the future, he could do some of what Payton is doing now.
Well, Payton's longest reception was 30, and then Welch is 22. So, I mean, I guess they have that long, deep depth, both.
And for a tight end.
Potential, yeah. That's all right.
We're going to get into the 3 interceptions for the game, and 2 of them were obviously tip passes. The other one went right over Welch's head. And here's the thing I want to talk about this, and this is another reason. This is a reason I like Huntley. So he threw the interception. He was bummed out. He got sacked at the same time, or hit. His helmet fell off. Huntley picked his helmet up and ran 90 yards down the field.
Made the tackle
before they got the touchdown, which is, I mean, you're showing what you're capable of doing if you do throw an INT. I don't want to see our quarterback obviously tackling people.
That's a problem.
Baker do it.
I mean, in that case, you want to, because you don't want to let a guy just run the sideline for a touchdown. It's not so much like the Baker Mayfield one where he got him in the middle of the field, and you're like, you really don't want to be the one to make that tackle. Just slow him down and let somebody else grab him. But that was more of a like, I'm faster than the defender. I'm going to catch him and then try to, like, he could have basically knocked him out of bounds. So I didn't hate that, although I hate when kickers or quarterbacks try to catch a guy and make a tackle, because like the last thing you need is a pulled hamstring chasing down a guy who, is not really your responsibility. But
Angel, what do you think of the 3 INTs? Obviously, like I said, 2 being
I was looking at their numbers for the game. I mean, they're very similar, man. 14 of 20 for Huntley, 13 of 17 for DTR, 2 interceptions, 2 sacks. I mean, wow, they're kind of similar.
When you compare those 2 guys, you're looking at exactly what we said at the beginning.
Yeah,
you've got one guy who's a little more impressive in preseason, just like he was last year, and he's younger by a little bit at least, and he's a Browns draft pick. So like, there's some reasons that they might want to keep him, versus another guy who's playing similarly in preseason, but you've already seen him play better in the regular season.
Yeah,
it's not an easy choice for everybody. That's like, it's obviously DTR. Like, it's not that easy of a choice.
No, it's not.
I've seen this guy win games in the NFL for the Ravens who don't have the craziest skill position players, and he can run around and make things happen. But, it's going to be a tough call for them. But
And he surprisingly made a Pro Bowl too, so he has that underneath his
okay,
belt.
I looked at that. That was the craziest
Yeah, that was
selection ever. I saw that, and they're like, past Pro Bowler, and I was like, when the hell did this guy make a Pro Bowl?
Yeah, he
played
made it.
5 games that season.
Yeah.
And at the
It was a
time he got
scam.
selected to the Pro Bowl, because Ravens fans just basically voted him in, he had played like 3 games and thrown for like 240 total yards and a
He made it.
touchdown. And somebody voted him in the Pro Bowl, and I was like,
That's
and I guess
insane.
also 5 other guys had bowed out already.
Hey,
Yeah.
listen, that was his breakout season.
Yeah.
I will just tell you, remember the huge conversation we had where I was like, I don't even like counting Pro Bowls anymore. Like, as much as I like to talk about a guy being a Pro Bowl level talent,
Yeah.
I hate when they're like, oh, this guy's a Pro Bowler. And I'm like, first of all, it could have been 5 years ago. Yeah. It could have been 5 years ago he's a Pro Bowler. And second of all, like, everybody just gets a Pro Bowl now.
Because no one wants to play.
Yeah, these
Right.
mediocre players constantly get Pro Bowls, and I think they need to stop counting them the same way. People are like, oh, this guy should go to the Hall of Fame. He made 4 Pro Bowls. And I'm like, everybody gets 1 or 2 automatically.
Yeah.
So, like,
it's not even an argument anymore, to be
I
honest.
hate it. It's such a bunk title.
So let's move along. There was no preseason heroes this year. I thought there was one, and he is no longer with the Browns. He's been waived.
Breeze.
Brady Breeze.
Brady
Yeah.
Breeze. I mean,
Yeah,
come on.
we all have our camp crush, and
The guy was all
he was
over the
gone.
Angel.
Yeah.
Thank you. The guy was all over the field making shoelace tackles. I appreciated that. Stefanski and Barry must have seen something. That was my only preseason hero, to be honest.
They saw that he's almost 28, and they were like, nope,
yeah, sorry, dog.
we don't need a 28-year-old rookie.
We got a 22-year-old rookie that we need to keep.
We're one of these kids where we're not going to cut like Ronnie Hickman or D'Anthony Bell for this kid that's like, D'Anthony Bell's like 26 and Hickman's like 23 or something. So,
And I get that, but you could have kind of signed a guy as a 2-year backup or something.
maybe, yeah, but I think
For a
that's
little
sometimes
money.
why they move on. And I think he got banged up too, but yeah, that would have been the one preseason hero. Nobody else has stood out at all, and I just, okay, there's always somebody, but
Angel, anybody stand out to you?
The fans that was enduring this preseason has been horrible. Other than that, no, nothing. I've actually slightly enjoyed the backup competition between it, because I'm finally starting to see, like, well, Huntley and DT are the same type of person, so it doesn't matter who we are. So my mind's kind of slightly changed on that. Other than that, no, it's been a boring preseason, and I'm at the camp where it's just like, cut it and just do joint practices and let people tweet out plays and let us get excited from Instagram tweets and all the other stuff, and let's stop watching this boring stuff.
it's coming. One more, and then we're moving on to football.
Yes. So obviously we know Nick Chubb's not going to be here anytime soon in the immediate future.
November.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Deontay Foreman went down, and it was a scare to all of us. Obviously, you seen him go down, and you're like, all right, that's our
neck injury.
Yeah, that's our second guy. Like, that's we need that. We need offensive linemen, possibly a quarterback. You never know. It was a scare. Everybody just daunting feeling. Like, come on, man, can we catch a break?
Yeah,
And
it's
we
been
did.
a rough off season for that. It's tough to watch.
We did.
He was the one that got helicoptered out of West Virginia to a trauma hospital in Virginia precautionarily after a neck injury, for anybody that doesn't remember that part. And fortunately, he played in this game. He ran like crap. He had like 5 carries for 6 yards or something. I don't have the stat sheet up.
But he did have a
But
one-yard touchdown.
He ran terrible. He did get in the end zone. Not that.
Hey, no, 10 for 18. Yeah, 18,
10 for 18. Yeah, so
He
he
averaged
rushed for
1.8.
1.8 yards per carry.
Yeah, Chad, check yourself. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. No, I take it back. He's twice as good as the bad that I thought he was. But he did get a bunch of catches. First of all, he had a bunch of catches out of the backfield.
He did
really well. We've all been
46.
talking about, like, how does this guy's like a short down back. Might not be true. Like, obviously he's bulkier. He can play short yardage, but I wouldn't. I mean, seeing what I saw, I know it's preseason, but like he brought every pass down, and he
Yeah.
ran pretty well after the catch. So I was thinking we have kind of counted him out as a third down type of back, but he's big enough to block. He can do short yardage, and if he can catch out of the backfield, like that might be the guy to come in and spell forward. Where everybody thinks we need Nyheim Hines to get
Yeah.
healthy, or
Wow.
it has to be what is the other kid's name that we traded from New England? I'm blank.
Strong.
Pierre Strong.
Pierre Strong. Yeah, so like we've been counting on those guys to play that role. I mean, if this kid can do it, sure, like that gives him even more reason to be on this roster. But I guess the point was after that next stinger, he looks ready to play, and I'm no longer worried about him at all. Second player on our team to have a neck stinger and get into this game.
Yeah.
So
And
we're
big.
Right. Speaking of neck stingers.
Yeah.
Oh,
What a
Paul
transition.
we're
Hall
taking
played.
some low blows tonight.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Michael Hall played. A lot of people were freaking out about this. All I have to say about this was like I was looking at it from an injury standpoint. He had that stinger in his neck. They still put him in the game. He played a little bit, not too much. For all the people that are in this Twitter war, it just became very clear for the fact that he came to practice, and then he played in this game. They are full go with what they released, that we're going to play him. We're going to let the legal process play out, and we will make a decision based on when the facts come out. So, don't tweet me about this. It's like I know a lot of people have already decided the ruling
Yeah.
based on an allegation, but like, and it might play itself out, and that might be the case. But for now, the Browns have stuck to their guns and said we're letting the legal process play out, and we'll play this kid. He didn't play much, and he didn't do anything that like jumped out to me, but it just kind of it backs up kind of that they were not just blowing smoke. They were serious about that.
And not
I
only
That
feel-
is
that,
like a
as a show, we're not going to talk about it too much until.
But I feel
things come out.
they
yeah, it's not our
as
call.
as far as the legal proceedings, I feel like they always do that. They most
Don't.
things-
I don't think they
They
do.
don't?
Yeah, I think there's been some cases like you remember that guy, the punter for Buffalo had an allegation, like a sexual assault allegation last year. They cut him the same day.
and he was innocent.
It turns out they went through the court case. He wasn't even at the place.
Yeah, he was
where
innocent.
He wasn't there. He wasn't. He had showed up at this party, left right away, went to some other party. They were able to put together all this cell phone footage and stuff to show that he wasn't. He was somewhere else at the time
Who
that he was
signed him?
alleged. And my whole point is, I'm not saying like this guy's innocent or guilty or anything. My whole point is to say the Browns have taken the stance of like that we have a legal system. We trust
play
it.
out.
We'll let it play out. And if something comes up, then we're gonna act. And until then, we're not. So
And that's what we're going to do here as a show. I don't want to.
yeah,
talk
love it or
about
hate
too
it, we're
much.
just rolling with it, right? We've all just decided, okay, we're gonna roll with it, and we just think that I guess that's how the Browns are. We'll see.
Yeah, don't hate us for that. We don't make the decision at the end of the day. It's
Yeah.
Browns.
And thank you to Browns for allowing the JOK extension to come out to kind of override
Yeah.
that. So.
Talk about like
Good
a
PR.
positive news dump.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
And I hate the negativity. It stinks. And like,
Yeah.
God, you hate to hope that it's not true because like then somebody's lying and that's so shady. Like
Yeah.
in the case for the punter from Buffalo, but like you also hate to think that any of that stuff is true. So let it play out and just let it get through the process. This is America. All right, rolling.
Innocent until proven guilty. Siaka Aika was on the ground once
Stinks.
again.
He's
I
on the
literally
ground.
wrote it that way because I
he-
turned on the footage and the first play of him I saw, I didn't know it was him yet, but the first thing I saw was like, who's that lineman that just got pushed on the ground twice by a guard and like kept trying to get back up but kept getting like pushed back down? And I'm like, it's Siaki Ika. What a shock. Dude,
And
I've heard this guy is on the ground, like constantly getting put on the ground at camp. He was getting blown off the ball in the first preseason game. This is preseason game 2. I know he was a decently high 3rd round pick for the Browns just 1 year ago, but like
Not promising.
the kid's got to do
Okay.
something to make this team. It's a deep room, and you can't just keep him because you picked him in the 3rd round and hope that his 3rd year he's much better. Like he's either got to go on a practice squad or he's got to like get it together this week because I'm seeing nothing.
Was he hurt mostly last year? I believe so, right?
I don't remember, but I do know like when he did play, he got knocked off the line. His PFF scores were terrible. His game footage was bad. Like you just don't see a lot from defensive linemen. If they're bad, you just see like, oh, they don't penetrate the line to get in the backfield, or like they can't hold down their blocks and a guard gets past them and to make a block on a linebacker. For his, like he just gets blown up. And I don't know how you keep a player like that on this team. With his size, he needs to be able to at least just hold a guy up.
That's another thing I want to touch base with really, really quick. You got second and third string linemen out there. Some people that haven't even earned the job yet, ever. And we're throwing second and third string quarterbacks out there. Is that an issue to look at these quarterbacks? Is this a possible?
This line stinks for these guys.
You give them.
They hike the ball and they immediately have to run out of the pocket.
There. And those are second and third string defensive linemen that are getting.
That's why I wish I could see how they looked in practice, because like last year, our backup line was a pretty strong line, and we got to watch DTR work in the preseason. This year, we're just watching him try to make something out of like running for his life. So it's just not helpful. I agree. I think that's a spot on thought. Is like they just can't work. Like the receivers aren't doing anything special. The running game's not existent. And without even blitzing, these backup defenders are coming right in the game.
Right. So
all right, and we already covered this part, so I guess that's about it.
All right, talk to you later.
What was that you just threw up in the air?
It's my fidget card, man.
A fidget card?
Yeah, I fidget. You don't see it because it's underneath.
1 hour and 12 minutes, the absolute fastest podcast that has ever been done.
No, Charlie Hewlett was 59 minutes and like 48 seconds.
That's what they guessed.
Yeah, we'll get it next week.
Yeah,
Charlie's just too good.
Always next week.
Dude, we could have kept him on the entire show. I wish. I wish. But that's it for tonight, guys. Great show.
That's it.
I think so.
I might see the game. I'm going to be on a trip for the. Ironically, people will get mad at me for this. I'm going to Seattle next week, and I'm not going to the game.
Is this going to be a long story?
No, it's just basically, basically for you guys, we can cut this podcast. But for all the fans, I'll actually be in Seattle, and I'm still not going to this game. That's what I think of preseason. I'll be in the city, and I'm like,
Yeah, I'm with.
By the way, have fun, everybody, watching the 10:30 kickoff or whatever time it is on the West Coast.
Yeah, you 7:30
on the West
guy.
Coast, it's at 7:30. It's a prime time game for you guys.
Time. It's nap time. My bedtime game. I probably will be sleeping around that time.
I will not.
You can usually find the replay on YouTube or on NFL.com.
Yes.
So
with that being said, everybody go subscribe and like all of our videos on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, TikTok, Podbean, all that crap around there. iTunes.
If you don't do it, we hate you.
Yeah, that's simple. And then thank you to our sponsors, CB Excavating. Call Chris for all your guys' excavating needs. Phone number's at the bottom there. And Doug White, Allstate Insurance Agency. Big shout out to them guys for taking care of us. And if you need anything insurance, call the Doug White Insurance Agency. They're in Olmsted Falls.
Right. Call Doug White.
Wow, that was good.
Yeah. Do right. Call Doug. Look, now he's going to patent that and take it.
Yeah, he is too. I owe Chad some money now.
Yeah,
well, Doug White actually owes Chad some money.
Yeah. Sorry, Doug.
I could do this. I was born to market. When life does you wrong, you need to not do White. Cut that one.
Do Doug White.
I'm kind of